Welcome to 2AT Studio, where our business is making technology work for your business. We focus on hot topics in technology, marketing, and website design. And today I'm going to be joined by our technology specialist at Technical Resource Solutions, Harrison Jones. So Harrison, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Yeah. So today's topic is password security. It's something that I know that many of us are familiar with, but not all of us put into practice the advice that we're given. So Harrison, I'm going to start with just some easy questions. Can a strong password be hacked?
Yeah, any password can be hacked. It's really just a matter of time and processing power. For example, with technology nowadays, it can take about 2 minutes to crack a 9-character password that doesn't have a special character, whereas the same length password with a special character can take up to 2 hours. For reference, a 12 mixed character password can take centuries to crack. So really, longer, more complicated is better. And of course, that's all dependent on the computer or computers doing the actual hacking, as well as other security measures like blocking login attempts after a certain number of tries or blocking someone completely after failing too many times.
Okay. And how is it that a hacker actually gets your password?
So there's a variety of methods. Like I mentioned before, brute force methods where a computer tries every combination of letters, characters, and numbers until the right password is sent. Hackers also utilize what are called password dump sites, which is where passwords from large leaks like those with Equifax or Yahoo or LinkedIn are just dumped on the internet. And hackers will take that information and use it with what's called a dictionary attack, which is essentially a brute force attack, but instead of characters, it uses words and sometimes combinations of those words, as well as reversing the order. So it's important to be aware if your password was leaked on one of those sites.
So what are some of the consequences of having a weak password in that case?
Weak passwords just make it easier for hackers to get into your account, specifically in reference to the password dump sites. If you have a weak password, I bet that someone else out there uses the same weak password, so it's the more prominent it is on the web, the more hackers are going to try to utilize it to get into your account.
And so, you mentioned data breaches. What are some of the risks of a data breach?
So data breaches can result in loss of company or personal data, just depending on the account. You can lose access to your account, infiltration of the rest of the network, or even compromising any associated accounts with whatever account got compromised.
So if I've got a strong password, is it okay to reuse it across different websites?
You should not reuse a password really ever. It just makes it easier. Hackers, that's one of the first things that they'll try because they know a lot of people do that, or they make a slight variation. But you should really have unique passwords across all of your accounts. Now, I know a lot of people, especially nowadays, there's a lot of passwords out there, and you can't really remember them all. So there's password management solutions like LastPass and 1Password, where you log into your account, you have a primary password. But after that, the way they're set up, you don't really have to remember any of your passwords because you can just go look at them. When using those services, though, the primary password needs to be very unique because that's kind of the key to the kingdom.
Now, I know that sometimes I go onto websites and it'll ask me to set a new password because it's been a certain amount of time or something like that. Is that something that I should do on my own, and how often should I do it?
You should really change your password as often as you can stand. The quicker you change it, the less likely it is that it can get hacked. Like we were saying earlier, or like I was saying earlier, the cracking password is just a matter of time. So if you are changing your password more often or a quicker period than it would take for them to actually crack the password, you kind of make it impossible for them.
So is there a recipe that I can follow to have as strong a password as possible?
So really the definition of a secure password is a minimum length and then the complexity and uniqueness. As technology has advanced, so has the ability for hackers to crack your password, as well as other methods like phishing. So it's important to have a long enough password that you can at least remember, especially if it's your primary password, but usually a 12-character password that has a mixture of numbers, letters, special characters is a good password to use.
Okay, so you've told me some of the things that I should put in my password. What about things I should keep out of my password?
Any and all personal information, really, to sum it up. So you shouldn't have your birthday, your family name, your dog name, family member's birthday, anything like that. You want to keep out of your password. Really anything that anyone other than you would know is putting you at risk for your password being found out.
Okay. And so I've got a secure password, and it doesn't have any personal information, but a friend of mine wants to use my Netflix password. Is that something that I can just email them?
You should not email a password ever unless you're using an encryption service, and specifically an encryption service that encrypts it from the moment you hit send from your computer onward. That kind of information is sent in plain text otherwise, so it's easy for hackers to just kind of decipher what that's going to be. An alternative to that would be just to call the user, verify that is the correct person, or send a text message with no other identifying information, just the password itself. So even if someone were to get a hold of the password, they have no idea what it goes to. And same goes even if you're sending an encrypted email.
Okay. So I've seen on TV, and this happens all the time, somebody sitting in a coffee shop, and then somewhere across the room there's a hacker that manages to get the password that you type in as you type it in on your computer. Mm-hmm. Is that something that can actually happen?
Yeah, I mean, movies kind of, exaggerate a little bit, of course. But you can be hacked over, especially open Wi-Fi, like unsecured Wi-Fi that doesn't require a password, because everything is sent in plain text. Mm-hmm. So someone connected to that network can, if they with the right tools, they can read all the information traveling across that network. So you really shouldn't enter passwords on an open network, or really any public Wi-Fi, unless you're using an encryption service like a VPN that is client-side. And that's the same for secured Wi-Fi. Now it's a little more secure because not anyone can get into it, but if someone's connected, someone else has the password, it's essentially the same as being on an open network with that person.
Okay, so I've got my password that's 12 characters long. I've got uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, some exclamation points in there, but I still don't know if these accounts are going to be totally secure. Is there something else that I can do for an extra layer of protection?
Yeah, so a lot of services nowadays have started what's called TwoFactor Authentication. And some services are even forcing it on you. Just as a default, they won't let some accounts be created without it. Essentially, it serves as a second factor. So you have your password, which would be the first, and then the second factor would be something like a text message you receive, or a code from an app, maybe a notification. Some services will let you use a secondary email. I would advise against that, because if that second email is compromised, then so is that second authentication factor.
Okay, well, I think that's all I have for you. Thanks, Harrison, for joining us. And thank you for joining us for our very first episode of 2AT Studio. We'll be coming back at you soon with more website, IT, and business news for you. Thanks.